what was one of your favorite things you saw in the 2025 Indian Power Plus reveal? Today I'm going to tell you one of mine and how it looks like Indian is one of the first to actually release this on an American bagger once again. But I got some questions about how it works, and I'm going to talk about these new safety features on the bike and how I think they could be beneficial, but how I could also think they could be a hindrance. But again, I got some questions here. I'm going to give you my opinion, and of course I want to hear yours afterwards, no matter if you agree or disagree, or maybe you have a different theory about the way these features work. Let's go ahead and jump right in. The new Power Plus reveal for the new Chieftain especially was kind of the focus of this particular video, right? So Power Plus, of course, has been a staple in the Challenger since it came out in 2019. Now they're incorporating that into the Chieftain. They're going to keep the 108 as an option, but then they're going to give the 112 as kind of, which will probably be the standard, I would think. You know, I would say, just a guess, that dealers that stock these things might have one 108 of each, but they're probably going to stock more of the 112s. Of course, you can order whatever the heck you want, but that would just be a guess of mine. But they're taking these motorcycles from 122 horsepower, 128 foot-pounds of torque to now 126 horsepower, 133 foot-pounds of torque. That gives you like 21 more horsepower than Harley-Davidson. You may say, well, that's not a big deal. That's not a whole lot at all. I mean, hell, I get that by upgrading the timing and the derby cover on my bike. Kind of a joke, but you see where I'm going here. That puts them ahead of Harley-Davidson, at least when we're talking about kind of their baseline baggers, once again, for the foreseeable future. Now that's not counting the CVO Road Glide ST with the 121 high output motor. That's just a different beast on its own, but that bike again is like, you know, $45,000. So there's not really, it's kind of an apples and oranges comparison. I'm talking about standard Road Glide, standard Street Glide, now compared to the Power Plus engines, they're ahead of the competition. So that's good. You need that because Harley is the standard in what you're kind of chasing. Every manufacturer in the United States, at least, is trying to follow that standard of what Harley does. But what sets Indian apart and what has set them apart is their willingness to embrace tradition, but then make sure they're modernizing the motorcycles. And that is one statement that they made in this reveal that I absolutely agree with. Harley has had to pay attention to what Indian's doing in order to keep up. But now Indian's pushing a little further. So of course, Smart Lean technology is something that they've had. I personally find these features incredible, right? It's not a replacement for training. I never want people to think that I believe that, but it is something that can back you up just in case you make some kind of slip up, right? Human error, of course, always sneaks in there. But they've added 3 new things that I want to focus on here, along with Smart Lean technology. The first of which I think is going to be so beneficial. I really do believe this, and that is blind spot monitoring. I talked about this years ago and how this technology on cars can, of course, you know, let you know, right, when something is in your rear view that you can't quite see, right? That's blind spots, right? It's kind of all in the name. But still, it will give you indications like, look, hey, you got somebody coming up a little bit, you know, too hot, or they're right there, you don't quite see them. Maybe you go to do a lane change and you just didn't look over your shoulder. Again, it's human error. I understand. It's like, hey, you should have been paying attention. Yes, but to have something there that's going to give you a visual indicator, not only in the Ride Command system, but also it's going to give you indicator on your mirrors, just like it works in a vehicle. That, I think, is super beneficial. The other thing they have is rear collision warning. So if a vehicle is coming up too hot behind you, the tail lights are going to flash to give them an indicator, hey, look, you're about to run into me. You know, pay attention to what you're doing here. So hopefully giving that one last indicator, if you don't happen to see them, hopefully that driver will, and they can stop in time before you get rear-ended. Again, I know people will say you need to be paying attention, keep your bike in first gear, get out of the way if you see somebody doing that, 100%. But this is just one more thing to hopefully make drivers pay attention to us, right? That's what we want, right? That's the whole point of look twice for motorcycles, right? That whole concept, which I don't know how useful it is, probably not that useful, but still, hopefully it'll give them a visual indicator that we're there. The other one they have I want to focus on is the tailgate warning. So if somebody's riding too close behind you, again, it's going to give you a visual indicator in the ride command that, hey, you got somebody tailgating you. And then in that case, you can make your adjustments, you know, kind of speed ahead, get away from that person, let them pass, whatever the situation calls for. You can do that. Look, a deer. And by the way, they do have hill hold control now, so there's that. Kind of a nice little feature if you're not comfortable with a heavy bagger, you load it down, you got a passenger, you're on a hill, incline, whatever, decline. So it'll give you a little bit of assist there. Now the linked braking is something else that I kind of have a little bit of a question about, because if I want to kind of trail brake into a corner, is it gonna apply too much rear brake? Is it only at certain speeds that it will actually have this system kind of activated? What if I'm doing slow speed drills, right? And I only want to use the rear brake. Is it going to engage the front brake as well? I know Harley's been using this for a while, so it's nothing new, but these are questions I have related to the Indian platform. I assume they've already done their homework when it comes to that stuff, but just a question there. So if you're kind of looking at the three main safety features that I'm focused on, do you start to see some of the potential issues? Well, my first thought is, what if you're riding with a friend, right? You guys are doing side by side, or you're riding with a group, right? Is the tailgate warning constantly going to be on? I assume the blind spot monitoring is going to be constantly on. You guys are side by side. But is it going to be flashing the brake lights at people that are riding in my group with me? Or am I just going to have warnings popping up in my dash every 20 seconds? I don't want to act like I know everything there is about this rear radar technology, but maybe it recognizes, okay, that, you know, this bike is not filling up the lane. It's kind of looking for a vehicle like a car, truck, whatever, that actually fills up the lane. And if it senses that is too close, then it will warn you. Surely they thought about people that ride in packs together, and you don't want those lights flashing constantly to the people behind you, right? They think you're stopping all the time. Well, you're definitely not going to be the leader of the pack, I guess, at that point. You're probably going to be at the rear. But still, you don't want that flashing to everybody as well, especially if y'all are not stopping. I'm not an engineer. I'm a guy that talks about motorcycles on the internet, and I do reviews. That's pretty much it. These are just some of the questions that I have about these motorcycles, and I'm sure we will find that out. And of course, when American Biker gets their bikes in, I cannot wait to do some new reviews for Indian motorcycles. Man, I feel like it's been a little while for sure. So definitely excited to get up there and try out the new 112 and try out these new features and see how they work out in the real world. Now, there's much more stuff to actually talk about with these bikes. I'm gonna save that for another video. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about these new features with Indian. Do you have kind of the same questions, or maybe you have some other questions or theories about how this will work and differentiate cars from motorcycles, or do you think it will at all? Let me know down below if you like what I do. Consider subscribing. See you in the next one, and as always, hold them down.